Welcome to Conversations on the Coast, San Francisco's premier author interview program. And today we are going to talk about a book simply called Dark Places. It's a novel by Gillian Flynn, published by Shea Earhart Books, which is a subdivision of Crown, which is a subdivision of Random House, which is a subdivision of Bertelsmann. Having made all that corporate identification, I welcome you.
Thank you very much.
You know, you're a writer, a novelist who appears to be on a mission of doing away with goody two-shoes devoted heroines and replacing them with women figures who are much more real. Is that your mission, kind of?
It is definitely fair to say that I really want to inject more realistic women who have, real tempers, rage, anger, that aren't just the usual women that we see and, kind of chick lit and that sort of thing. But I'm very interested in the idea of the cycles of female violence and female aggression and that sort of thing. And so in both my first book, Sharp Objects, there's kind of a cycle of violence within a family. And in the new book, Dark Places, the heroine has all sorts of problems.
She does.
The least of which.
She does. Yeah, when you talk about female violence, you see it as a specific kind of ferocity, and watching women go to work on one another, you've said, is a horrific bit of pageantry that can go on for years. Yeah,
to me, it's just women really entwine more than men. I feel like once they get all braided in there together psychically, it's very hard to pull apart. Even if you realize that you hate each other, I think women are much less likely to say, "This is a really toxic relationship. We're going to get out of it. We're never see you again." Mm-hmm. Instead, it's just this kind of it does not break off. It instead just kind of gets sicker and more twisted and angry and that sort of thing. And certainly in my first book, that was something that I was interested in, is like, what do you do when your mother is actually not good for you, and yet at the same time you still crave mothering?
Mm. In a sense, though, I think that says something very positive and wonderful about women, that they stick it out.
Yeah.
That they know that life goes on because they've always lived closer to life than men. Thinking of, perhaps your background, Irish families in Ireland, they farm almost the same land and don't talk to one another for years and years and years until somebody has a bright idea. Well, who are they? Oh, they're your first cousins. Shouldn't we go over and chat? So there you are. And your focus, too, in your writing is female villains. Violent, wicked women, scary women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, scary women. I feel like that's an entire unrepresented kind of character, is the woman who isn't just the nasty fashion girl in one of those chick lit books, but like an actually like damaged, troubled, scary lady.
Yeah.
And there's so much of fiction devoted to male cycle of violence and this sort of thing that, to me, it was really interesting and important to have this voice out there and to say, the fact of the matter is not all women are sainted and wonderful and stable. There are other women out there and
who will just fly off in violent rage.
Yeah.
But you do confess also that as a writer, you tried. When you came to the new book, Dark Places, you tried, what should we say, write more sweetly? And it stunk.
It stunk. It's exactly. Yeah, I had, Sharp Objects was a very dark book. It's a woman with self-mutilation problems and drinking problems and sex habits and this sort of thing. And I thought, oh, gosh, I don't know if I can go back something like that. And so I really kind of tried to start Libby Day, who has survived the massacre of her family. 25 years later, I tried to make her very stable and proactive, and her best friend was a psychiatrist who would help her sort through things, and I hated writing her. I just thought she was horrible, and so I kind of pulled myself together and got rid of her entirely and started over again the way she should have been, which was really angry.
With a new Libby Day.
Yeah, exactly. Start a new day.
The sun rises on a new day.
a better and worse day, but
yeah. Well, that's good, because you've given us a very different kind of leading character. Dark Places has its start in one very dark place. The Satan Sacrifice of Kinnicky, Kansas? The what? Stay tuned.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email JimFosterCoc@gmail.com.
Dark Places is the title. The author is Gillian Flynn. She also wrote a book not too long ago called Sharp Objects, which many of you will remember. This book is a Shane Earhart publication. And a fellow by the name of Stephen King, who, writes books now and then, like one a week, says Gillian Flynn is the real deal. A sharp, acerbic, and compelling storyteller with a knack for the macabre. Wow.
How about that?
You can take that to the bank.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Dark Places begins, as I said, darkly, and with the woman perhaps only you would propose as a heroine. This person, our friend, says of herself, now I'm not making this up, she says of herself, quote, I was not a lovable child, and I'd grown into a deeply unlovable adult. Tell us about Libby Day.
Yeah, as we were saying before, I'd started her. She had been a different, she had been
You don't lie.
Different, sweeter person in the first version, and then I started thinking more, well, what happens to a kid who suffers this and becomes sort of famous for surviving these horrific murders of her family. And
well, one of the problems she has is getting out of bed.
She can't. She's depressed, but probably doesn't really entirely believe it. She's a good Midwestern girl. She wouldn't actually say she's depressed, but she's depressed, and she's also unfortunately had this trust fund set up for her after the murders, so she's never ever had to acquire any sort of skills or interests or passions at all. And
now the trust fund is down to $982.12. That just proves I take good notes.
That's right.
Yeah, she's almost out of trust fund dollars. Mm-hmm. So she agrees to do something quite strange with a group strangely called the Kill Club.
That's right. Yeah, it's the idea of a bunch of true crime obsessives who are very interested in kind of, quote, solving, this case, even though Libby's brother has gone to jail on her own childhood testimony. They don't really believe it's true, and they want to pay her a little cash and basically kind of pick her brain and see if they can figure out what really happened. And she says, all right, because it doesn't sound like it's going to be too hard for her to do. She just has to show up, which she likes. Not too much effort involved. And as she starts getting more and more pulled into this, she starts realizing that maybe she wasn't as solid with her testimony.
Her first experience going to one of their club meetings is unbelievably strange. I mean, it's in as one would expect, a rundown warehouse that they don't pay much money to use or have. Mm-hmm. But in this warehouse, it was the number 40 separate booths, mm-hmm. Inviting people to get involved in solving 40 different killings.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And shortly they're all hissing at her.
Yeah.
Because?
They have all, like many people, have come to believe that she was wrong in saying that it was her brother who killed her family. And it turns out they've lured her there to kind of make her admit that, she had told a lie.
And they wanted to recant her testimony about a set of brutal killings.
Yes.
When one child is choked to death, the mother is hacked up with an axe, and so on. I mean, it's horrible stuff. Mm-hmm. And she survived because she was the littlest at the time.
Yeah, she ran off,
snuck out into the woods. Well, at any rate, she agrees to do this to seek out folks involved in the massacre for a fee, and she also will sell some family memorabilia.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Which this heroine of yours has had in boxes she hasn't touched since the crime occurred 15 years ago. The Kill Club does not believe that Ben is guilty. Now, the family I would describe as dirt poor.
Yes.
And there are interesting members of such a family. Mm-hmm. One is the husband, Runner. Mm-hmm. Unbelievably weird, I've written that. he kind of comes in and out of their lives.
Yeah.
Depending upon how badly he needs money.
Yeah, he's a no-good drunk. Yeah.
I like that.
But the best way to describe him, yeah.
Definitive description, Dad is a no-good drunk. Mm-hmm. And Mom is stuck with a farm that doesn't produce, a no-good drunk, and 3 kids. Four
Yep.
kids. 4 kids. Oh, well. Well, Dark Places, in addition to these kind of goings-on, does take us to some very dark places. Things like devil worship, dope dealing, and an attack by vengeful mothers, and much more.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at Jim Foster COC and email jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
This is Conversations on the Coast. And the title of today's book is Dark Places, the second novel. Second novel? By Gillian Flynn. Former book, first book, author of Sharp Objects. And Kate Atkinson has this to say about your writing. Gillian Flynn's writing is compulsively good. I would rather read her than just about any other crime writer. Now, you've got Atkinson on your side. You've got Stephen King on your side. This book is running away with praise.
Oh, it feels great, especially because those two are just writers I love. So,
plus review in New Yorker and a Times Book Review and so forth and so on. Now, one can get very, very involved in the darkness of this book and its violence, which, is what it is. But there are a couple of places that I think are, at least one to me, was just, fall down funny laughing. This involves one of the many trips that our heroine makes in search of people. And there's a woman who's involved with the Kill Club by the name of Magda. And Magda's also involved in something else.
Yeah, she's also involved in a more organized effort to free Ben from prison.
And it's Free Ben Day is the name of it?
Yeah, Free Day Society.
Free Day Society. So in pursuit of some money and, also to
always in pursuit of money, yeah.
To find the truth of the matter, she goes to Magda's house. And here was Magda's house. The ugliest girl with the most accessories frantically piled on. That is the bar scene right there. The front yard was spiked with lawn ornaments, gnomes bouncing on wire legs, flamingos on springs, and ducks with plastic wings that circled when the wind blew. A forgotten cardboard Christmas reindeer sat soggy in the front garden, which was mostly mud, baby fuzz patches of grass poking through intermittently. I turned off the car, and we both stared into the yard with its jittering denizens. That is a funny scene. And there's a hell of a lot of truth to it. People do that to their front yards, and like many of the forays she makes to quote find the truth. This one doesn't turn out to be that rewarding, does it?
No, that particular visit does not. Yeah, she runs into a lot of antagonism that she had not expected, because she had spent so much of her life being, poor baby Libby Day, the little survivor. But now that she's kind of grown up, people are a little more adamant about trying to help Ben and see her as the obstacle.
And one of the things that she's done is cut herself off from any knowledge or involvement with this horrible massacre case. Mm-hmm. So now when she comes back, some people are not going to trust her.
Absolutely. Yeah, she spent so much time trying not to think about it that she really doesn't kind of know what's gone on and what people are really thinking out there. She knows her own very little tiny corner of it that she adamantly believes in, but she doesn't really know that most of the world has started to become known as kind of a really faulty case against her brother.
As we talk about this book, I think people might get the impression that it could be hard to follow, but it isn't. And the reason it isn't is something very clever that you do. You use two time frames, and you just keep switching back and forth from the present to the time of the crime,
the actual
January
day of the
1st
crime,
and 2nd and 3rd, 1st and 2nd, 1985, and that really helps. That really helps. There are the facts as they're known, as they are happening, and then what she's encountering, and then the reader has to make the connection between the two. And we have very, very bright readers around here, so I don't worry about that. Don't worry about that at all. Now, one of the horrible scenes in the book does not really involve physical violence. It's the attacking women on the basis of a rumor that Ben had touched younger children sexually. Mm-hmm. They go crazy. Mm-hmm. They go crazy. And there's the scene in the house of the accuser. Tell us about that.
That's right. Yeah, there's kind of this rumor that gets out of control that Ben may have had done something to some little girls, and it's this kind of scene where everyone's gathered, in almost a town meeting to figure out what exactly had happened. And his mother walks in on it to figure out also what's going on. Back in 1985, no cell phone, so she can't find Ben. She doesn't know what's going on, and ultimately this kind of contributes to this crazy day that ends up in the murders. But at this time period, it's her kind of walking in almost on an ambush.
Just one of the amazing, wonderful scenes in a book called Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. This has been Conversations on the Coast, and I'm Jim Foster.
Now you can find this program on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all your favorite digital outlets. Follow the show on Twitter at JimFosterCoc and email JimFosterCoc@gmail.com.